out from the jungle position, want to try and limit Bjergsen's impact on the map with that Rise ban away, and also prioritizing this Zeri for Hans Sama. FlyQuest, on the other hand, also do seem to have a focus around really enabling JoseDeodo to be back in that form that initially got him sought out here within the LCS.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jose has had a good year. You know, has had a bounce back year. A lot of people were kind of talking about the fact that they don't think he had performed up to expectation in previous years, but this year has been very, very strong for the team. TL, though, I think a pretty difficult team to actually pin down because they have had a lot of flexibility. You know, just yesterday, Bjergsen brought out the Ahri, I believe, for the first time. You know, he has had a lot of different champions that he's brought out at least once. Bwipo as well has a ridiculous amount of different champions that he has brought out. And we know that Hans and CoreJJ are willing to play, you know, these kind of safety lanes where CoreJJ is going to roam on the map or go for 2v2 kills. So there's a lot of flexibility in the way that TL is willing to play in a way that they've never really had in the past. They've always been more of that kind of stock standard, draft for 5v5, draft scaling, wait for your opponents to make mistakes and win that way. So it's a new iteration of TL, and I do think it makes it much more difficult to prepare against.
And you do have to wonder how much of that is when thinking about the players on this squad. Ablaze Olive talking about the fact that Bjergsen is willing to play whatever is needed for the team and diversifying his style in that fashion, bringing out the Ahri this time for the second game in a row on the weekend.
Yep, going to be bringing out the Ahri. His game yesterday was really good. I think one of his best games of the split, actually. You know, getting a lot of key charms was a big difference maker, you know, in that game. Whereas a lot of the other games, and he even talked about this in an interview with Travis Gafford, you know, speaking about the fact that often his other lanes are winning so early that he feels like it's not smart for him to take risks. He should just then kind of facilitate them and their lead to be able to kind of make sure that he's not the one that is throwing the game or anything like that. But yesterday, it did feel like he was a big difference maker. Was really having a great game on the Ahri, so exciting to see that brought out. toucouille also, I think back to his game, I believe it was against 100 Thieves, where they knocked down 100 Thieves. He had an incredible Veigar game, big play in the final moments, you know, taking out Abadaga, who was playing Corki in that one, and really I think has looked strong on the pick, so it's a strong scaling pick here. JoseDeodo is on extreme comfort with the Viego, one of his best champs, absolutely. They have a strong engaged support here for Aphro, and they're banning out a couple of the options on the other side there for CoreJJ. Interesting to see the Malphite ban here, which kind of makes you think it's going to be an AD top, very likely that TL is looking for. Of course, 5th pick, probably going to be saved down, you know, for Kumo to be able to answer Bwipo. So there is the possibility of Jace. That's the one that most people are going to think of when Malphite is banned out. That's a strong matchup into that, especially if you want to go for an AD jungler as well, as they have.
Yeah, I am very curious to see what they do end up bringing into that top position, because even thinking to Team Liquid's game yesterday, right, you always have to be worried about how they use Bwipo to exploit whatever is on the opposite side, never letting Aatrox get off the ground. So if you're FlyQuest, do you want to go for something that's going to be a bit more useful in the later stages of the game, emphasize your team fighting, or something that can hold a bit more down in laning? Tristana, baby, coming through for FlyQuest. Johnsun going away from the comfort that a lot of the other picks are leaning towards.
Yeah, very interesting. Tristana coming out, you know, has gotten a couple buffs over the last while, but still not something that is as not a single play on 12.5 for Tristana. I just checked across the major leagues, so you know that's actually a pretty interesting first. It is a really strong scaling pick. It's a pick that can absolutely demolish towers. You do have a lot of self-appeal and safety with the Buster Shot as well as the rocket jump, so there is a lot of strength there. With Lucian coming through, I think that's Lucian top, so Lucian top very likely here for Bwipo. I don't think they're going to do something super crazy and like flex Ahri top, so it should be Lucian top. That is actually why they did ban out the Malphite. Will the support option in fact be the Taric? Would be interesting. There are other engage options they could look towards, even like the Leona is still available, Thresh is still available if they want to go for a more standard option, but CoreJJ can actually lock it in. So a lot of new stuff here today. Bwipo bringing out the Lucian top. We have Taric down here in the bot lane. One of the weaker early laners generally, but is a champion that scales incredibly well. And post 6, if you have the ability to lock your opponents into a team fight, the ultimate is so powerful. If they are playing a poke comp, the ultimate becomes a lot weaker because they can poke and prod, and it's easier to get a bad ultimate out of that Taric. But when you're playing, you know, with the Ahri, with the Trundle, if you can fly in there or even use it as counter engage to the Nautilus and Gragas that gets actually locked up here, get an effective ulti, that can buy Lucian and Zeri and Ahri the time that they need to really run over a team fight. So a very strong 5v5 here drafted by TL. On the other side, I think the engage is a lot more explosive from FlyQuest with the Gragas and the Nautilus, and they have some really good scaling here with the Veigar as well as the Tristana. So pretty interesting compositions.
Yeah, I am so curious to watch how CoreJJ impacts this Team Liquid lineup, having another one of those picks that has a lot of protective capability and can enable them to run over FlyQuest, but FlyQuest also with a lot of tools at their disposal, trying to set their players up for success. But FlyQuest still have a lot to prove when taking down the Titans of Team Liquid.
This is a league built on speed and precision, where everything needs to perform at a pro level, especially your hardware.
They block the road. They want to complete the final piece of the puzzle. They don't have enough damage for it, but who cares? It's all a formality, baby. The winner of LCS Lock-In.
Even if you're hard stuck plat, like me, forever. Roccat, the official mouse and keyboard of the LCS.
All right, coming back into it, FlyQuest still playing from home, but getting their best foot forward here against Team Liquid. And boy, are they on a rampage.
Yep, TL has been looking really, really strong. Of course, did lose their matchup against C9, but then C9 lost to TSM, so kind of staying even in that regard. It's going to be a really exciting one. Again, you know, a lot of flexibility being shown by these teams here. And it's going to be interesting to see what they kind of, you know, are coming to a conclusion with of like what their best champs are, you know, coming up on playoffs, right? Because there's a lot of experimentation from these top teams, especially a lot of experimentation on the FlyQuest side as well. And they've got to really nail down like what their best comps are, what their best champs are. So when you come into playoffs, you know exactly what you want to go for in all situations.
So with that considered, and the fact that they do want to set themselves up for playoffs, but also within this game, looking at the comps individually, who are you favoring and what are the tactics that you are looking for each side to get the overall victory?
I mean, I think, you know, you've got to favor TL just based on the nameplates
Right.
almost. But when you're looking purely compositionally, I do actually really like what FlyQuest has drafted. They have multiple forms of engage, really, really strong engage there. You know, with the Nautilus and the Gragas, they have strong scaling team fight with the Veigar as well as the Tristana. Like, I like that composition a lot. I think when you're looking at edges over on the TL side, it's looking towards the top lane where you're going Lucian to really try to bully this lane. You're trying to play aggressively, create pressure up there, which can unlock your jungler to really get a lot done. Because if you can keep Kumo locked in his lane, you know, pushed in constantly at his tower, that's going to allow Santorin to invade aggressively, to take neutral objectives, and really to try to create an advantage from there. And then when it comes to team fights, it's all about, can you get that effective Taric ultimate with a hard committed engage? Because if you can, it's pretty tough to beat any sort of Taric team comp.
And speaking of the junglers and where they want to bring that power towards that top side for Team Liquid means that Santorin is starting over on the bot side, whereas JoseDeodo pathing in the way he tends to like to on this Viego over towards top and bringing that pressure down bot eventually, but hovering around to clear out his camps as well.
Yep, absolutely. And you can see the early Tribrush ward that was actually placed there on screen from Bwipo. You know, that is kind of a nod to the fact that there could be some sort of early aggressive move. Bwipo, though, getting a quick level 2 there and just going to try to continue going in, punishing Kumo on every single trade that he can. Going to be interesting to see if it's just the Blade of the Rune King rush. I think that's actually what he went last time, the one other game that he did bring out Lucian top. And these double marksman comps are becoming a lot more popular once again. We're seeing Kai'Sa mid, we're seeing Lucian mid, we're seeing Lucian top. So it's becoming kind of back into the meta, and it does give an advantage to these teams that have the flexibility to really run it.
And you can always rely on Bwipo to bring out picks such as this. While it's the second time for the Lucian, but see if they can make a play here. Santorin's hovering in the area, and Bjergsen has already made his way over, walking over the territory they had previously warded, bringing down the domain. Kumo getting a bit of slap and flashes directly onto Santorin. One more tower shot will take him down for the first blood. Can they pull out Kumo in the process? Oh! The range up Bwipo has flashes forward. Bjergsen safely escapes with the last tower shot, and it's a 1-for-1 trade.
1-for-1, but they give first blood to Kumo, so not the best there from TL. Santorin just took too many tower shots. You have to say, though, the red buff here onto Bwipo is going to be really nice in his matchup, and Kumo's actually just going to TP mid. He's going to cover there, push that out. You'll have toucouille just staying top. Obviously, he TP'd to cover, and then they're going to reset and swap it back. Bwipo, though, just trying to greed this out. He's going to wait for the recall to finish, know that there's no TPs available from either side. Then he can actually fully bounce the wave. So this will still end up, in his favor in the 1v1. He had a lot more farm. TL up towards the top side. They want to pull off a 3-man dive here on the stacked wave, deny all this golden experience here from Kumo. The teleport was very quick, though, from toucouille. He goes in almost immediately. Kumo, it's the body slam flash there, keeping Santorin in tower range longer than expected. Very well played by Kumo, just last second there, not allowing Santorin to get out of range of that heated up turret. And then they kind of have to go in for this little bit of a desperation dive there, knowing with the cooldowns on Veigar being very long early on, as soon as he uses that first rotation of spells, they just try to fight through him, tank up the tower. They do finish off the kill, and they save it from being an absolute disaster.
And that does mean, as we return towards the standard top lane, Bwipo versus Kumo, no flash, no teleport available to either of them. Kumo, having used his a little earlier, will have that up in soon time. But yeah, that was a trade that actually got Bwipo pretty marked down. Still has that red buff available to him. JoseDeodo rotating over from lane, trying to take advantage of the low HP, but Kumo gets one more slice from the Q. JoseDeodo flashes in for it, throws down the damage, and Bwipo's taken out.
Yeah, nice move there from JoseDeodo, just going straight towards top, not actually clearing the camps. They knew he had no flash, and when Bwipo uses his dash aggressively there, it's an easy flash into stun for Jose. No way for Bwipo to actually avoid that. That one trade, the overstep, allows FlyQuest to actually go for that play. Otherwise, they can't do it. But Bwipo oversteps, gets body slammed in tower range, takes that tower shot, takes the Comet proc, gets hit by the Q on the way out. Everything connects there. And Kumo has had some really effective body slams here early on to be able to turn into, this lane, which could have been an absolute disaster, into a pretty even affair.
And a comfort pick for Kumo that has worked in the past and really showing the prowess on this pick and familiarity with Bwipo. I mean, Relentless Pursuit, for instance, has a bit of that cooldown, but now Team Liquid do have advantages that they can try and seek elsewhere. Bot lane is fairly even in farm. Over in mid, slight advantage to toucouille, but Bjergsen was also making those roams prior. And across the rest, though, it's just a slight lead here at the 6-minute mark with Dragon spawning up soon enough, and no one particularly pushed up in their lanes yet.
Yep, no massive advantage taken on either side. You can see, though, that TL has done a pretty good job with the river control. They're going to try to cage Bjergsen in, so ulti will be forced. But, has pretty good line of wards, across the river there. Ward here, ward here, ward here, trying to just have that safety to play through those pushing lanes. Top lane has got to keep pushing. You can't back off just because a couple things went poorly. He is going to be just on that shove constantly. Santorin playing towards that top side, trying to enable him. We'll see if they can find any sort of a move around mid lane. It looks like he wants to try to set up Charm play with the pillar, but toucouille able to spot him there.
Waiting on the outskirts. toucouille just hitting level 7 now, so slight ahead in XP compared to Bjergsen, but it's time for an invade from Santorin to go into the enemy jungle territory. Bwipo aggressive here with Kumo. Sidestep, explosive cast to knock Bwipo to the side. Throws down the culling. Won't be able to finish off enough damage. The wave was coming as well to try and block some of it off. But meanwhile, down bot, FlyQuest are taking the first dragon.
That's actually pretty nice from Kumo. I'm not sure if it would have been better to ult him into the tower, but he actually ulted him into his waiting Q. So he hits both of those, chunks him out really low, but did have the refillable potion, had some biscuits there, so he's going to be able to reset this on the bottom side. Jose trying to check on this red buff. He's looking to steal this away as FlyQuest does have the push here. Johnsun and Aphromoo moving in. Again, you kind of expect them to be able to have the push as Taric not a strong laner here early on, and it's just going to be TL making the call to give up the red buff, so Jose will be able to take this one away. And Core just kind of trying to chill down on that bot side, looking to scale up, has the early tier, which I expect him to just kind of sit on. I don't really think he's going to go straight towards Fimbulwinter. A lot of times, Taric does struggle pretty heavily with the mana, though, so going tier early and just sitting on that and then going into your support item or your mythic, I think makes a lot of sense.
And right now, just making sure they're not taking too many risks when they don't need to, just for a buff. You could see that the rotation was happening from the FlyQuest bot lane over that control ward that he had previously dropped down and try. Of course, it has been cleared out now, which gives Fly an opportunity to control that side. But over here on top, Bwipo once again isolated, but Bjergsen's making his way up towards this top as well. A play that we've seen time and time again from Team Liquid to keep him protected. Rift Herald is up here too for somebody to have the taking eventually. A nice knock, zipping on forward onto Kumo. Bjergsen, a great charm to finish it off. The Orb of Deception, but it's Bwipo that gets the kill.
Nicely done there by Bjergsen, gets the roam, point blank charm. And this should get them Herald as well. That's a really big deal. Gonna get them Heralds, gonna get them plates probably here for Lucian as well. That's one that FlyQuest should have known it was coming, though. I mean, they had the knowledge that Bjergsen was actually missing from mid lane. Toucouille should be calling that out, and FlyQuest just not respecting the roam. They are moving up, though, to try to challenge here.
And CoreJJ also here as well. Going to be faced right off by Aphromoo. Goes on forward to stun, and another charm directly onto JoseDeodo. No more jungler for FlyQuest, meaning that Team Liquid feels secure in their take.
Yeah, that just felt like an overreach from FlyQuest. When you lose that fight on the top side, you're always going to lose the Herald. And them overextending to try to do this was a 3v4 that they're opting into. You know, Johnsun was behind the play. He was roaming up, but he was not there to make it a 4v4. So Hansama sits bot, picks up that farm. They get an extra kill. They still get the Herald. And now a pretty significant advantage created there for TL.
And the Herald was picked up by Bwipo specifically. So
That's nice.
Yeah, he can just drop that down anytime if he feels like it. Maybe get some input from his junglers and saying, hey, you got the thing that I usually take control of. Enjoy your moment in the sun, my friend.
Yep, all the gold gonna go here to Bwipo. Has the Blade of Room King already completed. So Bwipo really, really strong at this point. You do have to show some respect to the burst potential there of this AP Gragas. But, you know, if you're not by the tower, if you can get a couple good trades in here, you really can't do much as Kumo to kind of fight back because he's so far away from his Everfrost. Bwipo is going to be massively stronger at this point, and he can continue pushing up, chipping away at the turret. He has the Herald in pocket, has the potential to just get all this gold for free.
And another Ahri on the way if he needs any additional assistance too. Kumo charmed
charm
again,
flash.
another orb. Everything going right here in the top lane.
Oh, Bjergsen is just ruthless up towards this top side. Back-to-back games on the Ahri. He is popping off. The charm flash, it looked like there, right onto Kumo. Getting the charm, interrupting the body slam. Kumo, back-to-back roams, can't avoid that charm, not willing to early flash. Ends up going down again. He has no TP here, so it's a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, Bjergsen is making it look easy when he's going for these top roams.
Yep, coming right back through. You know, he is spotted, and at this point, your only chance is just flashing immediately, but Kumo knows he's just going to follow. But it is the charm flash there, point blank, lands the charm, had the ulti to follow even if Veigar did flash, or excuse me, Kumo did flash there. So no real escape for him to be had, but now it's 100 CS to 58. You're massively down in farm. 3 kills over to Bwipo, plus the plates, and the fact that he's going to get another 360 gold at least from the Herald means this top lane is completely out of control, and they're not really getting anything on the other side to kind of make up for that, right? You know, they just have the one dragon. They have a very tiny advantage in the farm on the bot side, but Taric is going to, you know, really outscale what the Nautilus is going to be able to do in the 5v5. So there's not a lot of bright spots right now here for FlyQuest, besides just kind of like hoping that your Tristana and your Veigar will be able to out-carry later on.
And you can assume most of that gold advantage that Team Liquid have established at this point in time over 2K is over towards that top side. And yes, FlyQuest stacking that first dragon, 4 more seconds until the second one comes up, which is why they want to zone a bit. They've dropped down a couple controls across the river, but Bjergsen already getting some heavy chunks onto toucouille right now, and JoseDeodo isn't in the vicinity to make that play just yet. They want to alleviate some of this pressure that Kumo has been feeling up top.
Yeah, but Santorin is just ghosting him. He's staying behind. He's making sure that even if they look for that play, the Trundle is in the area to respond. And as the wave bounces, Santorin can go farm his camps. Bwipo is going to be safe to push this in one more time. The Herald will have to be dropped here pretty soon. You know, I do expect it to be used either on this wave or the next. You know, you don't want to allow that to time out, and you definitely don't want to miss out on that gold. Should be able to probably just proc it right here, and we'll be able to at least get 2 more plates down. It's going to be very low. Probably can't actually finish that last final plate before they do fall, because it's going to be too much armor and MR, but we'll get the charge. We'll get an additional kills worth of gold, and at this point, you know, it's 5,700, almost 5,800 gold to under 4K. So that he is like almost the entire lead for TL.
And here at that 13-minute mark, whereas most of that lead is over towards top, you at least know Hansama on the bot side has finished off that Triforce. And then on the opposite end, because of that attention that was paid, Bjergsen making that roam just to ensure that the Herald could smash, they do manage to position themselves for a second dragon to be picked up by FlyQuest, which means we got them Hextech gates on the way for the third.
And that is a really strong soul. So at the very least, they do have some sort of a win condition that they're building to. You know, you have really good scaling with 2 of your carries. If Gragas can kind of just hold on the top side, like honestly, maybe he should just go Everfrost into tank from here. Like I don't think it really makes sense to go full AP when you're this far down. So maybe he should just try to bail out and try to get into damage mitigation as hard as he can. But, you know, they can try to work towards Soul. But TL has such a big gold lead that as long as they execute in these 5v5s, they should be able to stop them at the next dragon. And that's really where I think a lot of this game is going to be decided, because TL has been able to stretch out this 3.5k gold lead. FlyQuest has traded that for a couple dragons on the bottom side, and now you've got to kind of make good on that and continue this stack towards Soul, because if TL steals even 1 dragon away, then the gold they've gotten has been worth so much more.
And while TL are positioning themselves to offset that pretty effectively, for FlyQuest, you still have ample amount of engage. We have seen Kumo on the Gragas, as you were just mentioning before, kind of pivot away from the AP, towards the elsewhere. 6.8k in gold for Bwipo right now, towering over the rest of them, a whole 1.5.
Kumo's down with the supports. That feels bad, man.
I feel like that becomes your battle when you're at the bottom. Just be higher than the supports. Just be higher than the supports.
Yeah, you're just waiting for them to cash in the final stack on the relic shields. They can't keep up with you. It's definitely a rough one for sure. But he does have the Everfrost. And one of the nice things with Gragas is no matter how behind you are, I mean, not that you want to be behind, of course, on any champion, you still do have kind of that X factor, the ability to find a really nice ultimate. Of course, you want it to do more damage, but if you can actually knock someone in, if you can find that perfect combo, body slam flash, knock someone in, you know, immediately delete them with Veigar follow-up, then that can really do a lot to kind of alleviate those pains and that goal that you are down. Because as strong as Bwipo is, he isn't tanky at all, right? You know, he still can get burst down.
So maybe an opening if FlyQuest can make sure that TL don't completely run away with it. They are on the second Rift Herald right now, having dropped the prior one before 14 minutes to get those plates, to put Bwipo in that really heavy pocket gold territory, and now have another tool in their arsenal. But, I mean, FlyQuest on the other side, we haven't really seen a lot of the action down bot, mostly just leaving Johnsun to hopefully farm things up and become a powerful force later.
Yeah, and mostly because there just hasn't really been much action, right? Like, they've pretty much just been trading farm here, back and forth, the Zeri and the Tristana. You know, they are going to be able to grab that gold there for Johnsun on the bottom side, but it's probably going to cost them 2 towers here mid. We'll see how quickly FlyQuest can respond, but they don't even need Shelly's first charge here for that tier 1. Bwipo is moving over, so 5-man rotation from TL to try to push this up. They get the charge off. Will they finish the tower?
Smashes on in. JoseDeodo had to use the Heartbreaker just to get out to make sure he didn't fall. 3-man knock up here. A couple roots as well. But what do you know? CoreJJ's got a nice ultimate in his pocket. Explosive cast on the outskirts to push Bwipo away. But no lives are lost, but towers taken.
Yep, they get those 2 towers. All the ultimates used there will be back up before the next dragon, so not really much of a cost for TL. They brute force it down mid. They get that additional gold here. And not sure if we're just into a quick pause. We'll let you guys know as soon as we do. But yeah, I mean, it's all really going to come down to the setup here around that next dragon, around that 3rd dragon that FlyQuest is trying to stack towards, trying to get that Hextech Soul, you know, really make good on the early game investment down on that bottom side. Did get the info. Hansalma's client did crash, so game paused. He's going to be rebooting. Hopefully it's a quick solve and we're right back into it.
Getting that all worked out. On that note of that dragon, it does feel like a lot of teams like Team Liquid have been okay with allowing those first 2 to go. They're not too worried about it until you get to that soul point, if they're not the ones in the driver's seat, because there's plenty of games where they do prioritize that bot side as well, but they kind of just let it go if they're not the first ones to that first Drake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think with this composition that they built, like when you're playing Lucian top, you're doing that to create a gold advantage on the top side, right? You know, Lucian doesn't want to farm even. You know, you're just not in a good position if you're doing that. So it makes sense for them. Focus their efforts on the top side, play through that advantage. Ahri has pushed mid, Lucian has pushed top. Santorin can do pretty much whatever he wants on the top side because of that. And it also enabled Bjergsen to make some really good roams towards the top side, which is kind of what blew that lane open for them. And so you're trading all of that gold that you're farming for the dragons on the bottom side with the intent to fight at 3rd dragon and be much stronger than your opponents at that time. And that's, you know, pretty kind of classic trade back and forth. Of course, there are some games for TL where it's just like they're just stomping every lane and they take the dragons and the gold lead. And usually you're just kind of doomed in that situation.
You just try and keep your mental in it, you know, chin up,
Yeah.
smile on your
We're
face.
scaling.
Yeah, we're scaling, we're scaling. And on the note of Bjergsen bringing a lot of that power over towards that top side, because yes, you can look at it, oh great, he's roaming at the right times. But you look down and he's never really down in farm. He knows from that expertise he's developed through all of these years in professional play when he should find those windows. And you imagine that he's also working very well with the rest of the team communicatively to make sure it's full advantages. Looks like we're back in it though. Team Liquid and FlyQuest still underway.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to roam at the right times. You know, roam when you're not going to lose too much farm, too many plates, too much tempo. It's definitely something that, you know, if you are going to be roaming at timers where the waves can crash, you want someone to be able to rotate up and actually cover for you. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's interesting because, you know, we had a Blaze Olive talking about how in his games, you know, his experience against Bjergsen most recently have been that Bjergsen generally prioritizes his lane and is not willing to sacrifice that for that of his teammates. But in this game, I kind of feel like that's been more what he has done. Like, you know, he's not farming poorly by any means. You know, he's up to almost 160 at 17 minutes, which is respectable, but he's roamed multiple times and actually has sacrificed some farm to put the Lucian ahead, which was kind of exactly what they were talking about. So, you know, showing some of that flexibility, it's something that Bjergsen definitely hasn't shied away from in the past. He's a guy that kind of just plays whatever he believes is the strongest, no matter what anyone else believes. Received a lot of criticism at times for, you know, playing Galio all the time on TSM and things like, you know, mid lane Lulu or Karma or whatever, when people are like, get him on a carry, let him win the game. But if he believes that's the best way to win the game, that's what he's going to play. And he's not someone that needs to be the person to carry every single time.
And I think that's one of the things when it comes to Team Liquid as a squad, even just hearing from Santorin in the post-game interview yesterday, the excitement comes from that willingness of every single player to make the play, whatever it needs to be, while Team Liquid setting up right now in the bush to try to make a play of their own. 4 of them, Bjergsen coming from the river as well. There is some warding to be seen. So FlyQuest are keeping themselves nice and congested, even calling down the teleport here for some additional assistance.
This is tough, though, because there's not really any vision around that Dragon Pit here for FlyQuest. You know, they have the Scuttle, that's it, right? There's one flanking ward very deep. There's the Scuttle down, but it makes it tough to enter, and they don't see Bjergsen here. He's going to face check.
Yeah, Bjergsen was sitting right on top of that control ward for whoever might be passing by. The Dragon itself has been completed, Team Liquid taking it down, so with the objective no longer on the table, FlyQuest choose not to engage.
Yeah, and I think that's the right call. It's a tough one to make when you're trying to play for Soul, but they just didn't have the angle to do it. So instead, they get mid lane prio off this. They can go mid, try to push for towers. TL didn't have the inside track to actually walk back and defend their mid. So instead, they're just going to trade bot. They recall 3. They send their 2 Soul laners down bot to try to trade a tower. And their bot lane plus jungler will actually get up here to try to defend their own tier 2 and potentially defend that top lane tier 1. So I think correct choices on both sides here. This is, of course, the earlier client crash. They are back in. That didn't just happen. We have FlyQuest playing from home, so have to build up that competitive integrity, and that's why there is that little bit of a delay.
So while in this current game state there was a bit of a trading of the turrets, if you're looking from FlyQuest's perspective, think about the advantages that Team Liquid got when they can break open that mid. It's always a scenario that helps you most when wanting to go for the dragons, when wanting to go to the Baron, so that you can establish that vision very effectively. So at least maybe FlyQuest, if they keep themselves within a team kind of movement across the map, can try to do some of the same. Though they do still have 3 minutes and 45 until the next Drake, so a while on that, and we are just now over the 20-minute mark where Baron becomes a play.
Yep, and I mean, I think for FlyQuest, the game plan kind of stays the same, right? You know, the gold lead hasn't grown tremendously for TL, and if you actually look at the individual gold leads on these players, it's 3K for Bwipo. You know, they're only 3.6K ahead. So if you can get a quick kill on Bwipo, like the gold lead is just removed. And they have good tools to do that because, you know, Veigar QR plus Kumo with a body slam flash into an ultimate, like those spells will insta-kill the Lucian. It's obviously easier said than done to actually connect everything on him because, you know, he's going to be playing around that. And there is things like, you know, the CoreJJ ultimate to really worry about. But if they can connect on him, if they can really find that window to get the damage down, they can burst him out. And then it becomes a lot more difficult for TL because TL doesn't have great hard engage, right? Like they have the Trundle pillar to slow you down. They can kind of stun off Trundle, but they don't have any sort of like dive in hard CC type of play. They more need to be first to an objective, set up vision similarly to how they did the last Dragon, and force FlyQuest to kind of fight into them.
Yeah, which is a bit difficult to try and execute when you have Team Liquid pushing all on the bot side to not grant FlyQuest much entry here, which is why they're rotating players like Aphromoo over towards that top to see what they can do with toucouille to pressure this top lane. Bjergsen in the vicinity though, and Hexgate utilized by JoseDeodo. They don't have much of a wave here, just last cleared with Bjergsen having the minions on his side, so they can't really execute, but they were trying to be proactive with it.
Yeah, it looked like they were trying to set up a flank here. You know, Aphro and Jose looking for a wraparound, but because they have no deep vision, right? You know, like they have nothing on the map past this little ward here. They got one there, and then they have kind of this just general line, right? They've got no deep wards, so they didn't have any information on where the TL members were. And if they do try to go for that wraparound and they find Santorin and CoreJJ, it's going to go really bad for you. So they do end up bailing out on it. But we're kind of just in this situation where both teams feel relatively happy with what they're getting, and it's turning it into one of those slower paced games that is more about the setups at the objectives and really trying to eke out small advantages. And this is going to be Flash's force for sure.
Another heartbreaker used by JoseDeodo to get out of some of the CC here. Santorin, Aphromoo actually flashing over the wall because he knew the jungler was on his tail. FlyQuest using everything they can to escape, not being ready to be funneled into a corner just yet.
Yeah, there's just no way they could really fight in that position. Johnsun didn't have a good angle. Kumo was not actually there. So they're always going to have their flashes forced as soon as they were spotted. And they do respect that, spend the flashes. But it does mean some vision control gained here by TLs. They're trying to look for a little bit of an interrupt.
Directly on the ward is where CoreJJ was standing. Flashes. A little scary moment there that FlyQuest were lying in wait for.
Yeah, he actually, that's kind of clever because Jose had no way over the wall, but he hits the W stun over the wall to set up for toucouille's cage to try to buy that buffer time. And I do think toucouille potentially could have 100-0 him with a full combo, so that's why there is that really quick flash coming out from CoreJJ. Just a little miniature flash, wasn't like a full length one, but does get into safety.
You know, Taric just has shorter legs. He can only go so far.
There you go, yeah. It's got all that heavy armor on him.
But that's pretty much the most action we've gotten in the recent minutes because FlyQuest are being reserved, which is what you want to see. You don't want them to get picked out. And even looking towards the recent game, when things started to fall apart against Golden Guardians, it felt like a singular player getting caught out in a moment, which is something that JoseDeodo is a little worried about right now, but does have his mid laner and his support by his side.
Yep, but they have kind of lost full control over the Dragon area. You know, I've highlighted a lot of times, talking a lot about vision because this is really how TL likes to play. This is something that is not changed with their team. They're very thorough about sweeping out vision. They like walking around in 2, 3, 4-man squads to clear out vision. And because they have full vision control on this bottom side, there's nothing stopping this play from being made down here because they have full info there. So they actually just have Lucian sold that up. They send 4 men top to contest vision on top side, and again are going to force Jose to use his ultimate in retreat, which may just cause them to start up the Baron. I mean, this is one of those situations where when you have Taric, because he has that tier, he actually has a lot of mana, and with your passive auto resets, you can heal like every second. So you actually have the AoE healing to keep yourselves very healthy. This is what you do. You actually add a significant amount of damage as well with that passive. You don't want to over spam and run completely out of mana, but you can do very healthy Baron attempts. They're going to try to force it. They get the TP here out of FlyQuest. Will they just full on commit? Looks like they're down to flip.
Yeah, 5v5 potential, but it's blue side Team Liquid getting the Baron right now. Very similar to what happened over on that Dragon side. FlyQuest, no vision established, can't make their way in and lose the objective.
And I called that a flip, but actually that's not really a fair characterization because they knew that Jose had no flash, had no ultimate, and they had killed off the blast cone. So he actually had no way in the pit, and he wasn't going to be able to walk all the way around the outside to enter the pit. So really, the only chance there was toucouille trying to steal over the wall, but didn't really have the ability to kind of set up and get that. So TL, I think a pretty smart Baron take there from them, utilizing that power of the Taric. They get the Baron, now have extended the gold lead in a meaningful way for the first time in a long time. They've taken back-to-back Dragons, and they're on the push here. They are looking to fight.
A 4-player escort from Team Liquid down mid. There is a teleport available from Bjergsen if he wants to come through. But here we go. 2 lockdown, 2 stun for Team Liquid. But so far, it is 1 eliminated in CoreJJ. JoseDeodo, Heartbreaker over to the side. Gets Charm back into it. Explosive cast to send Santorin in the opposite direction. But toucouille flashes over the wall to get out of Bjergsen's way. That's a man you got to worry about his damage. That's a pillar you got to worry about that's slow. But you got the stopwatch.
All the gauge.
Kumo, the event horizon is good. catches 2, but the damage follow-up isn't there. So Team Liquid dodging dark matter on dark matter. They stay in this, losing 1-for-1.
Yeah, it's just the 1-for-1 there. FlyQuest had a really good flank. I'm so surprised that they didn't actually try to kill off the Zeri in that situation. Instead, they decide to spend their spells on CoreJJ and burst him down. I guess the read is that, oh, Kumo probably gonna go down.
Bwipo, you feeling pretty strong right now, huh? You got that calling for Kumo, huh? Kumo right into his barrel and sent off to sea.
Yeah, Kumo gonna fall down there. Didn't spend the flash, couldn't get out of range. Does end up going down. Johnsun, will he look to try to make a play here? Aphro's on the wraparound.
Oh, meanwhile, right here around the mid lane, toucouille and JoseDeodo are on the retreat. Flash forward, Santorin throwing up his pillar once again. And on the opposite side, Aphromoo is here for some support. Gets a hook onto Bjergsen. The stun up to follow.
Oh,
but the stun onto the enemy support is here too. Now, the Cosmic Radiance coming in nice and strong for CoreJJ. The level of sustain, good for Team Liquid. Bjergsen zoning off toucouille. And the tower in mid is going down as well. This grants Team Liquid a bit of extra room to make their movement.
Yeah, they're going to try to push in here. They have that tower down. But FlyQuest doing a good job holding on. They did get the kill on Bwipo on the top side. It ended up being Johnsun grabbing a solo kill there on an admittedly very softened up Bwipo. But TL do get kills on the other side. They do take down that mid lane tower. But yeah, I mean, it's just interesting thinking back again to that initial flank that toucouille and Jose pulled off. You know, they caught both Hansama and CoreJJ in the event horizon, but they ended up spending the spells, you know, on the support instead of the marksman. And I think the read just there is that CoreJJ will save Zeri with his locket and his heal into the ultimate, so they felt that they had to kill off the support. The problem with that is you spend all your spells to kill the support, and now Zeri's going to run wild. And here this is one more time. Hail of Blades, jump in, 2 autos, ulti for the buffer on that 3rd auto, get the kill there. Nicely played by Johnsun, who is getting quite strong, has 3 items, stopwatch on top, going to be working towards the IE 4th, almost guaranteed. And I mean, they have serious threats here as far as the late game carries, but they've just really been losing control of the map constantly and haven't been able to get access towards these dragons.
The way things were split prior, it feels like whoever is on FlyQuest facing off against multiple members of Team Liquid, whether it be the absence of vision or just the angle within the jungle, has been difficult for them to find that opportunity. And now hoping to hover in the outskirts in the fog of war, just to find some chance to catch someone from Team Liquid out, but it's so hard to find them separated.
It absolutely is, but at the very least, this is the first time they've actually had river control pre-dragon spawn over these last 3 dragons. It has been TL getting the last 2 very, very easily. FlyQuest has the inner path. They're actually going to try to push down mid here, take a tier 2, then they can exit through the jungle over towards that dragon and start it up if they want. Bwipo has TP'd, but FlyQuest getting a little bit stuck on this pillar. It's going to get awkward.
Team Liquid hoping to corral them as much as possible. Aphromoo bringing himself out of this with the dredge line, and FlyQuest within the jungle they go. Team Liquid don't have vision within this vicinity, so they take the mid lane route. The dragon is up. This can be soul point for either of these teams, the 2 previous being claimed by Team Liquid. FlyQuest congeal together to try and take on Team Liquid here.
Yeah, FlyQuest, I mean, they spent all their tempo, though, going down mid and taking a tier 2, which is honestly just irrelevant.
Oh, Bjergsen goes in, gets the charm onto 1, stopwatch immediately after. Another strong CoreJJ ultimate, and the support gone. Team Liquid positioned to take the Drake.
Yeah, and they're going to continue looking to position for even more. The pillar is going to lock in Johnsun. They want to potentially chase here, but now with Baron spawning in 55, they can even go towards mid lane. There's an open inhib there. They grab another dragon, and yeah, FlyQuest want to collect as much gold as possible, but you didn't stop the soul stack. You could have actually been at soul point off that, and I think that's actually a much more valuable objective at this point in the game than just getting that bit of gold there from that tier 2 tower. Instead, they spend the tempo on the tier 2 tower. TL then are able to kind of recoup that, push out mid, meet them towards that dragon, and TL take the fight. TL take the dragon. They're at soul point and still with a massive gold lead, and Baron about to spawn here.
JoseDeodo taking the long way around. They do outnumber Team Liquid here on the top side. Rocket jump
toucouille
along
flanking.
the shot onto Bwipo. toucouille sees if he can get an event horizon down to lock down Team Liquid as soon as they arrive. Hansama right in the middle of that pit, throws down the ultimate, gets blasted on down. Bwipo, you are in dangerous territory.
Oh.
That's what happens to an ADC. When you get
Reset.
caught out, you get the flash forward after the rocket jump reset, and it's good for a kill. Johnsun putting in the plays to be 4-0 right now. What a great Rockcat flip the switch replay that we have off of that.
That was a huge play. toucouille on the TP flank, gets behind the Zeri, and Kumo alley-oops him into the cage there. toucouille, even so much patience, he never even spent the ulti because he knew he had the damage to get the kill. So if TL ever turned to fight, he still had his combo, and here it is. The Rocket flip the switch, replay. toucouille in the bottom of your screen, had the TP flank, comes in on that long run there, finds the perfectly placed cage here, and then Kumo just knocks Hans into the wall. Bjerg is already low. CoreJJ, you can see on the minimap moving up with Santorin, but there's just no chance for TL to fight. The Nautilus ultimate committed. They get the second kill. The reset on the jump there for Johnsun. Flashes in off the rocket jump. 3 quick autos with the hail for blades. Ulti to follow, gets the kill with the explosive shot proccing there. They take the Baron as well. We were at a 7,000 gold lead. It is now 2.8K. That was about a 5K swing there for FlyQuest with some really powerful scaling. And now TL, it's your turn to start sweating because you may have just given up enough for FlyQuest to get right back into this game.
It's the first time we got to see them be truly proactive with their kits. How many times had we seen the Heartbreaker from JoseDeodo, the rocket jump from Johnsun, having to be very defensive and getting out of a lot of these fights against Team Liquid. But now we were able to see the true power that they have behind them, taking down this tower in the bot lane. Team Liquid offsetting this with another wave soon to come.
Yep, just trying to stack up these waves here, have them crash at the same time. Mid lane's coming in. It's just the cannon in that bot lane remaining. I'm not sure that FlyQuest can really get more. And this is, though, where that previous decision to take the tier 2 mid really maybe comes back to haunt you a bit. Because if you had the Baron into this next dragon spawning and you could play for Soul with the gold kind of equalized, that's your win condition. But it is instead TL that are still on that Soul point, and they have the advantage here. And FlyQuest is struggling to get those waves crashing at the same time. You know, bot wave is going to be cleared out. Yes, mid lane comes in now, but because the wave is not crashing at the same time, they now move over to mid as 5. They're going to clear this out, and they're just going to be able to bounce back and forth. So FlyQuest really needs to try to sync up those waves, try to slow push it in so that they crash at the exact same moment, and force TL to try to defend 2 places at the same time. That's how you get the advantages with this Baron push. Otherwise, TL just move as a 5-man squad and clear out both waves.
And that top wave had gotten stalled for quite some time as well, which is why Johnsun is now making his movement that way so that FlyQuest can open up some of these lanes and create an advantage. Their Baron buff will be expiring before the spawning of that next Drake, and that's where you have to look at that team fighting once again to see if they can push things.
Yep, and at the very least, they will get this tier 2, so not going to really be able to pressure the base here. Unfortunately for FlyQuest, just didn't have the correct timings on those pushes. TL, though, trying to get some vision back here. It's going to be about the dragon. Both teams need to reset early, get rid of any extra crap in your inventory, get pink wards. Everyone needs to play for vision in this sort of a situation because the game will come down to having that perfect setup and to having that perfect engage at this next fight. If TL get that dragon, that is Soul. That is very likely the game in their favor, despite the great comeback from FlyQuest. But if they can stave this off, they are still alive.
And because of that, the pings were coming in strong from FlyQuest. The immediate rotation, Event Horizon lands again, but the stun directly into the stun off of that movement from Santorin, using the ultimate and the flash here as well. No lives lost just yet. Trying to zone off with some of these barrel rolls from Kumo, but it's Team Liquid on the outskirts as the dragon spawns here with a few seconds to go. Also have a ward in the pit on their side.
Yeah, but you look mid lane and they have the wave actually crashing on the inhib, so FlyQuest is the one kind of on the time crunch here. They're going to start this up, and it's down to Santorin, but he has no flash. They forced out the flash earlier with that cage, so they are able to grab the dragon here. They have to get back to base now, see if they can actually defend their inhib, but TL unable to find a way in, and this is where this kind of a composition that they've drafted can struggle. If you are not playing from the advantage, if you are not the ones that your opponents have to engage into, they have no real way to start out of the fight besides pillar. Like, they need FlyQuest to come to them, and when FlyQuest gets first move, when they get the first setup, TL don't really have any options except hoping that FlyQuest engage into you and fumble it.
And when you're FlyQuest at that point, yeah, you're just saying, okay, we have decent ways to zone you off here in this Riverside.
Yep.
We got some barrels, we got the cage down, and if you try and step up into that, you can immediately get blasted down. We saw that happen to Bwipo the previous time because of how squishy he is.
Absolutely. I mean, cage at this point is an 8-second cooldown that lasts for 3 seconds, right? It actually has a tremendous amount of uptime in the later stages of the game. Once you have that maxed, once you have some CDR picked up, and having the death cap, having a lot of these items picked up, you know, he is closing in on that 1K AP mark here probably pretty soon. You know, I assume once he actually finishes his next item, which he's pretty close to doing, he will be able to crest that mark. And Johnsun is full build. He has the eye complete. He picked up a GA on top, so he's sitting on 80% crit. Tristana, very high level as well, has hit level 18, so you have the maximum additional range from your passive there. It's very difficult to deal with Tristana this late in the game.
And here coming into a fight, keeping in mind, Hansama has a stopwatch, so does JoseDeodo. Decent ways of trying to delay. Azonia's in the pocket for Bjergsen. See who makes the first move. FlyQuest right now trying to usher this wave down mid. Don't have much vision.
Bwipo's not here.
Outskirts.
They're not going to contest it. They're trying to trade. They're actually trying to go for Bwipo to potentially trade and hit, but FlyQuest need to press. You are 5v4. Push in. Make Bwipo TP back or try to get something more.
Take it or leave it, FlyQuest. They take the inhibitor, and Bwipo continues to usher that wave over towards that top side. See how quickly FlyQuest can respond from here on out.
I mean, someone's got to get back, right? You've got to get back and actually answer this.
They're afraid to.
If you wait too long, you know, if TL are able to stop these recalls, then it could be really bad. TL, of course, don't have vision in their jungle to actually just go in there and face check, so it is just the inhibitor trade. You know, FlyQuest played it a little bit slow, but now, Bwipo, you're in trouble. He way overstayed.
Ooh. Yeah, two coming in hot from FlyQuest once they finally did manage to get that back. Kumo using the flash there, but still, inhibitor mid taken down for Team Liquid, inhibitor bot over for FlyQuest.
I mean, this could be Baron potentially here for FlyQuest. They should definitely go for it. It's 5v4. Bwipo stayed so long there. I mean, TL didn't have vision on anyone. You've got to respect the fact that someone is going to base, that they're going to have home guards. Bwipo played way too aggressive there. They're going to leave Kumo bot side just in case TL try to end the game through bot, which is what TL looks like they're trying to do. They're actually sending everyone bot, 4-man bot. They're going to try to base race this, but the Baron's going to go down too fast, and they're going to be able to recall. So all they're really going to be able to get is this mid lane inhib, and they have to be a bit worried still about the potential home guards coming through, about potential TP flank. FlyQuest will lose the double inhib, but they've taken one of their own. They have the Baron, and they're on soul point here as well. So this next dragon, it's becoming really dicey. TL just staying around. They're trying to find one member walking in by themselves, see if they can catch someone out, but they're spotted now, and FlyQuest could try to collapse.
Bwipo just now respawning and looking for maybe a teleport into this action if need be, but the rest of Team Liquid using the jungle to their advantage to get out of range of FlyQuest.
Yeah, going to be able to back it out, and though Aphro could have engaged there, he would have engaged too far away from the carries. If he blast cones in and just, you know, flash engages, you're a couple screens away from the rest of the squad. They're not going to be able to follow up, so good little bit of patience there from Aphro. They have got to just try to set it up around this dragon, rinse and repeat, get ready for it. We can see Anathema's Chains picked up here from toucouille. Really, really strong item as a defensive option here for the Veigar. Be able to reduce the tenacity on your opponent, plus the damage that they are doing. So it's actually increasing the cage stun, which really makes that very, very deadly. It's really effective. I think it's a lot better than Zonia's in most cases, unless you're playing against like Syndra or something like that. But FlyQuest pushing down bot. TL are just trying to push the other lanes. They know they can't 5v5 anymore. You know, they did not get enough early on, and their comp is not suited to really set up the 5v5 where FlyQuest can choose their engages. So they're just trying to play these kind of hit and run tactics. They're sending 4 mid. Bwipo is top. toucouille is here to answer. Multiple members from FlyQuest base to answer, but then that means that it's too risky to take the push and continue that on bot side. So Johnsun and Jose are going to have to back up, knowing that if everyone from TL bases, they could now get picked off. And TL is going to continue to try to do this. Push and pull, and hope that FlyQuest really overextends on one side. But now it's all about the dragon here. Double TP coming in, actually triple TP coming in. Everyone showing up to this. This is likely the fight that decides the game.
It's a house party. Everyone's got an invitation. Aphromoo putting Bjergsen into the VIP status with that one hook, but the calling right onto the outskirts. Another stasis utilized, and CoreJJ keeping his team alive. But the focus onto the dragon is good. It's JoseDeodo that takes it down. One down right now for Team Liquid. Hansama really on the teetering edge of death, and as soon as he comes back into it, finds his grave ready and set for him. Team Liquid pushed off of this. Soul achieved by FlyQuest, but Kumo already very dangerous. A nice cage to get around CoreJJ, and even though he watches over it, he can't get out of the way of that ultimate. Aphromoo, you're in dangerous territory, my friend. Bjergsen and Bwipo looking to get collapsed upon, though. Flash from toucouille to get out of the charm range, and with that, the rest of FlyQuest funneling into the base, looking for an opportunity to take down Team Liquid. Onto one Nexus turret they go. Those bombs hit pretty strong. If you're Tristana, baby, what can Team Liquid Bwipo do when FlyQuest is coming for you? Nexus down, fly, win.
FlyQuest take the game over TL. What a comeback from them. Really all off of that top lane play. The TP flank from toucouille was so critical there. Coming in, catching out Hansama on that top lane, getting the kill to get multiple kills. They take the Baron, they pick up multiple objective bounties, and they were the ones playing this composition that had such incredible team fights, such incredible scaling. It's much more easy to actually execute in the 5v5. You know, TL kind of had to play with an advantage, and they created a massive advantage early, but they couldn't close out the game. You know, they were 7K, 7.5K ahead, I think, at the highest point. But then off that TP flank, the advantage swung like 5,000 gold. Like, they pulled it back to almost parity, and then TL are at the point where they are not the first to the objective anymore. They don't have the ways to actually engage. They can't be proactive. They have to try to react to what FlyQuest did, and that's why we got in this weird scenario where TL knows they can't win 5v5 anymore, so they're going to try to split push, they're going to try to do all this crazy stuff, and FlyQuest just handled it really, really well.
Yeah, overall FlyQuest coming through clutch there, but I do want to recognize the clutch factor from toucouille that has been developing through a lot of the games with their victories, because if it isn't for that lockdown, as you mentioned, over in the top side, following up with the damage, some of these chances wouldn't quite be found. I
mean, it's very reminiscent of that game that I talked about when he locked it in, of that 100 Thieves game where he has that big play, you know, just one-shotting the Corki out of his Valkyrie and finding these big cages, finding these big plays. You know, FlyQuest was playing a slow game. They were getting very far behind. I mean, TL did an incredible job snowballing on top side. But when you play these late game comps that have really strong scaling options, that have multiple forms of engage, you don't need to push the pace of the game as much as your opponents do. So as long as they can stabilize, Veigar and Tristana are getting their farm, they are going to be a big threat, you know? And Johnsun gets to the point where he's on 6 items. Who cares if Bwipo was big earlier, because Tristana is just a more powerful champion in the late game.
And finding the ways in which that, oh, we don't want to overstay our welcome. We want to know where those advantages are, but not push them too hard. Because we saw Bwipo overstaying in that bot side, right? When he got the inhibitor, went a little too much, but then FlyQuest on the other side, making their way down when they were trying to set up for that last Drake. They didn't overstay, and they made their way to the objective.
That was really, really impressive. And I gotta say, you know, maybe Raz was the FlyQuest curse, because as soon as he stopped believing in them, you know, he was betting on them to go 12-6, I guess it was, right? And then he lost the bet yesterday, had to eat the spicy pepper, and then today he's like, yeah, I don't have to bet on FlyQuest anymore, they're gonna lose, and then they immediately take down TL.
I kind of feel like we should make Raz eat a pepper on every FlyQuest loss. There's only 3 more games of the regular season.
Come on, Raz,
right?
that's a big deal.
Yeah, we'll hit you up about that, Raz. For now, though, we're gonna go ahead and step away.